What's the vibe, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Running Off the Screen. I'm the man they call Mac, and I am joined by a friend and host of the Live by the Three podcast, available everywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Welcome back to the show, Curly.
Thank you for having me, brother. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to get into, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and we have entered that time of year, that mid to late January. And, it's always been that checkpoint where all these trade rumors arise and teams try and find out what direction they want to go going forward. And the Raptors have some decisions to make. And up until recently, we've been mentioned to be intrigued with the likes of Bojan Bogdanovic, Jalen McDaniels, DeAndre Ayton, Jakob Pertl, and mock draft legend or mock trade legend Miles Turner. Out of those names that we've been rumored to acquire, which one of those ones stand out the most, or who you wouldn't mind on the Raptors?
I was toying with this quite a bit, and it's just a matter of, what are the Raptors willing to give up and what are they willing to spend? You hear Bojan, the Pistons are expecting a first-round pick for him. Then you hear Jakob Portal, the Spurs are expecting 2 first-round picks for him, and I don't know where they get off with that. But if I had to pick, I think it's only logical based on our current need and current situation that it would have to be Miles Turner. I know there's an negotiations going on right now in terms of his extension, and if they can't get to an extension, then the report is that they might have to trade him. And I think that the Raptors have the pieces to kind of sneak in there and get somebody that we've been linked to for a very long time. And I mean, we've heard numerous rumors where we're listed to big men like Gobert, which thankfully that one didn't go through, Portal, DeAndre Ayton, and Miles Turner. And it seems like that desire to get Miles Turner here has not gone away. But seeing that we are getting killed on the defensive rebounds, or rebounding in general, we lack an inside presence, we lack that rim protection, we lack spacing. It seems like Miles Turner is an easy fit to the puzzle.
It's funny. It seems like the perfect fit. Now, obviously, if we do a trade like that, we probably have to get rid of one of our starters, which I wouldn't mind. And I'll probably get into that later with my trade proposals that I have whipped up. But I think Bojan and Ayton are decent options. What do you think about those guys?
I think DeAndre Ayton, I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but first of all, yes, I agree. Both can help us in either way. It's just a price tag for Bojan. I mean, a first round, but he kind of looks rejuvenated, on the Pistons. But wherever he went, whether it was on the Wizards or on Indiana or on Utah, he goes there and gets buckets, and that's exactly what we need. We need bucket getters, and we need guys that can space the floor. So I love the idea of that. But DeAndre Ayton, we saw what he was able to do in the playoffs during their finals run. Obviously, I don't think, well, that's not obvious, but I do feel that he's being underutilized and maybe underappreciated in Phoenix. The ability to hit the mid-range, to offer that rim protection, to be that defensive rebound. And I know there's been always a question of his drive, but I'm curious to know how a lot of that has to do with his environment. And I think it's worthy of rolling the dice on a player like him. He's young. I mean, yeah, he's getting paid $30 million, but in a couple of seasons, that's going to be a cheap contract for him if he's able to live up to his expectations. But yeah, if I'm not going to get Miles Turner or Jakob Poeltl, I would say DeAndre Ayton is right up there. But you really can't go wrong, because each one of the players that the Raptors have been linked to, they can provide something that we need. Whether it's shooting, whether it's inside presence, whether it's rebounding, rim protection, whatever, each one of those players have a need that the Raptors desperately need. So I think it's a no-brainer. address one of the problems, or you're going to continue to have lots of them. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And yeah, I agree. Like with Boyan, he's a veteran 3-point shooter, someone who's hovered around 40% 3-point shooting throughout his career. And since 2017, he started every game he's played in. So he's been up there with winning teams. He's producing at least 18 to 21 points a game. Like I said, he has been starting his whole career. If he comes to our team, I don't see that trend continuing on. But his willingness, the threat and the gravity he provides is something that we desperately need. But he is 33, so I don't know if that, it doesn't fit our timeline that much unless we make another deal to put us really into that contending light. And with Ayton, any deal involving him, just like the Turner stuff we were mentioning, one of our core pieces has to go. And I envision that being someone like OG, if we were to do something like that. And it just would really clean up our starting lineup if we can get a solidified center. You have Fred at the point, Gary at the 2, Scotty at the 3 where he should be, and then you got Pascal and an Ayton or Pirtle or Turner, whoever you want to put there. Now, yes, you mentioned the motor and his motivation to be great. Again, the Suns organization it's a hot mess. So I could see why a player like him, who feels that he deserves more, being a number 1 overall pick, in that situation, he's just like, you know what, let me just run the motions and see if I can get the hell out of here, and then I can go off. So Jalen McDaniels is another name. I don't.
Sorry, brother. Before you get into that, I think what each one of those players that you mentioned, with the exception of Boyan, but with the Portal, Turner, and Ayton, I think we'll be able to finally reestablish roles, which is one of the problems that we have right now. And I think we sacrifice, the idea of versatility, Vision 6-9, the switchability and whatnot, but we didn't plug the holes with the shooting and with the rim protection, because I believe we barely have players that are 6'9". I think we have a lot of them that are 6'8", possibly 6'7". With the exception of Pascal and now Koloko. But I think establishing that true center, and we know how much Nick Nurse really misses that, we'll be able to reestablish roles. And like you said, Freddie can be that point guard, and everybody will be able to go to their natural positions. So I think we need calmness and peace. We need less chaos and more peace.
and I think there's an untapped potential with someone like Ayton too, where offensively and defensively, like he's someone who could shoot. He shoots decently from the free throw line. I think he's around 70%, and Miles Turner as well. And then you made a good point with the Vision 6-9 thing. All those teams that are succeeding with that framework, like let's say like a Pelicans, they have a bunch of guys who are big wings, but they have the center in there. You know what I mean? You have let's say a team like Memphis Grizzlies, they have a lot of wings, they have a lot of size at other positions, but then they have a center in there. Now, Steven Adams is not the offensive center you would look for, but he brings a physical presence. We don't have that physical presence to help balance out our ability on the wings. And when we're talking about wings, Jalen McDaniels is another name. I don't see that being a big deal. It could be like a Malachi Flynn or Banton type of deal to bring him in, get another wing guy off the bench, sign him in the offseason, and then build up your rotation that way. And speaking of building rotations and trades, and we've been scrolling through Twitter for the last few days, and we've noticed a litany, I guess, of mock trades. And I wanted to get your perspective on some of these trades I've been seeing. I have 3 here. If you have more, we can continue on and keep going back and forth. I wanted to get your grade from 1 to 5, like 1 out of, or whatever you want out of 5 for these offers. So here's one mock trade I've seen. Fred VanVleet, Malachi Flynn for Dyson Daniels, Trey Murphy, Devontae Graham, 2024 first rounder, and 2025 first rounder. What do you grade that?
That's actually not bad.
So out of 5, how do you feel about that?
I would say that's a 4. I've never saw that deal. I wish I did, because all the ones I saw, made my head explode. But that's actually not bad because I mean, we we address needs. We get some young shooting. We get a young prospect. We get 2 young prospects. Dyson Daniels could be an anchor defensively, the same way that Freddie anchors our point of attack. I mean, it sucks losing Malachi, but he's not getting much opportunity here, and he's not maximizing on it. And I think it's one of those things where Devonte Graham, prior to him getting to the Pelicans, he was a bucket getter, despite his size and stature. So I think change of scenery might benefit both teams in terms of, or both players, I should say, in terms of Graham and Flynn. And with Freddie going to the Pelicans, that really solidifies the Pelicans' position in terms of being a legit contender. CJ McCollum is basically playing multiple roles, essentially playing what Freddie is doing for the Raptors right now, being that ball handler, being the facilitator, and looking for his own shot all at the same time. But having a steady presence like Freddie there will isolate CJ McCollum to just be that killer. And I don't know what it is, but could be health, but he looks really, really good now on the Pelicans. He looks rejuvenated, and I mean Dyson Daniels. There's a reason why he was a really coveted pick, and I love the idea of Trey Murphy. I would give that a 4. I know I rambled on, but that is a 4 for sure.
It's funny. I graded that a 4 as well. Now you kind of hit everything on the head there, but I don't know if they would give up those first round picks if I'm the Pelicans, because as much as Fred gives you offensively and defensively, you already kind of have that across the board when you think about it. But if they want to solidify that point guard spot, if they're not really all in on Jose Alvarado running the show and they want to win now, that's definitely a deal I could see them pushing through. And Trey Murphy, man, that boy, he can play. Like, he can shoot. He has good size. He fits that vision that we have, but he can actually shoot. That's a perfect trade, I think, for the Raptors. I think that's the best they would probably get for Fred VanVleet, to be honest.
And if you think about it, getting Murphy and Daniels in that deal is essentially getting 2 first-round picks anyways. So even if they give 1 first-round pick, like a 2024, even a 2025 first-round pick, it still helps both teams out. You're not really gutting the future if you're the Pelicans. If you're the Raptors, you're addressing needs. You're building towards the future at the same time. And yeah, I really like that deal. That was a nice one.
And it's worth noting that the Raptors did meet with Dyson Daniels for the pre-draft workout. Yes, I don't think they worked him out, but they interviewed him. And second trade offer I've seen on Twitter is Pascal Siakam for Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell, Keegan Murray, a 2026 and 2028 first rounder, and a 2029 second rounder. What do you grade that?
Oh, I grade that a 3. I mean, they're giving a lot of assets in return, obviously, for a player of Pascal's caliber. But a move like that is saying, 1, rebuild. 2, the expectation is that Scotty Barnes is going to fill that spot. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster for Scotty Barnes in his second season. I don't imagine it with everything trending in the right direction for him right now. He's looking more like himself. And I think we talked about it off air, that he's figured out that he has the ability to go against the bigs, and he has the athleticism to do so, and he has the touch to do so as well. So I think a move like that sets the Raptors back a little bit, and we might lose out on a player like Freddie, who might not be wanting to go through that whole process. And I think respectfully, he's earned that right at that point if the Raptors do go in that direction. But yeah, I would grade it a 3. I like the idea of getting Keegan Murray. I mean, we've talked about Davion Mitchell before, but I mean, they're all even all of them combined can't replace what Pascal does for this team. But if they're building towards the future, I can see why the Raptors would consider a deal like that.
Yeah, I gave it a 2 personally.
Yeah.
But because I've never been a fan of trading star top tier players just in for the sense of cap relief. I know it's a rebuild, but we don't really need to do a full rebuild with this team yet. I think we have a good collection of individual talent, and in that, I think as a collective, we're not good. So we just need to. We're at like the puzzle piece stage, figuring out who works together. We shouldn't shave down the whole roster. That's why I wouldn't do a deal that shaves us down like that with Pascal. He's our best player. And again, in cap relief, those type of trades where you want to get cap, you're extending your team's flexibility for what though, right? Like who's gonna sign to a rebuilding team? You know what I mean? Who's gonna want to be in that situation where okay, I'm a max player, I'm gonna go to a rebuilding squad? Like, it's kind of hard in that situation.
And not to mention that the once coveted developmental squad of the Raptors are taking a little bit of a hit, especially with their young guys not really playing and not really, having an opportunity to elevate themselves. So as a young player, do you want to go to an organization where you know that there's a very strong possibility that your opportunities are going to come at a minimum just because of certain playing styles and whatnot? I don't know. I think you kind of lose that draw when you make a move like that, and maybe if that does happen, which I highly doubt, but if it does happen, maybe you possibly move on from a coach from Nick Nurse. We've seen Dwayne Casey, kind of sort of reinvent himself dealing with the Young Bucks and the Pistons, and maybe Nick Nurse will have the opportunity to do the same. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think a rebuild is necessary with this squad. But if you're trading Pascal in any capacity, especially in a deal like that, I think it's evident that it's going to be a rebuild.
That's a good point, and I think Zarar was saying it in our last episode. He's kind of mentioning that Nick Nurse hasn't really been known for developing. It's more so the Casey tenure that was developing our bench players and the bench mob and all that stuff. When Nurse came in, when Nurse came in, we were kind of like a finished product. So it was easy to plug and play and get creative because you had a bunch of high IQ players, role definition, and players that had one goal in mind. They all knew that, hey, this year we need to win a championship because we have Kawhi Leonard. We have a full squad that are veterans and a mix of young talent that really want this ring. And you notice that season they had this certain demeanor about them, like they kind of followed the I guess the mannerisms and the thought process of their leader at that time, who was Kawhi, just zoned in, locked in, not complaining about every call, just taking it play by play. And you notice now that we're kind of emulating what our stars are now, right? Kind of figuring out who we are, trying to get our contracts settled for the next off season, going for stats more or less. It's just we're in a situation where it's just not clear enough, for Nick Nurse to actually figure out what the hell he's doing with his bench and his team. Last trade here, sorry, I don't want to run off here. It was from Bobby Marks. Fred VanVleet and Juancho for Terrence Mann, Robert Covington, Amir Coffey, a 2028 top 5 protected first. What do you grade that? Sorry to laugh.
A 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, that is a completely one-sided deal. Like, yeah, you're giving up, if you're the Clippers, you're giving up a future in Terrence Mann, but I think it's kind of undecided what kind of player he's going to be. He's a good player. He's a talented player. He's a worker, and he plays with great energy, something that the Raptors can benefit from. But Amir Coffey doesn't play. We saw when he gets the opportunity, he's able to squeeze in about 15 to 20 points. I think last season he even dropped 30 points a couple times. But again, the opportunities are going to be far and few. You don't know what kind of player he's going to be. I think in Robert Covington's case, I like the idea of getting Covington, but again, even you combine all those players, it still doesn't equate to what Fred VanVleet brings to our team and his value. So, and I mean, Juancho, he might benefit from having, two guys like Kawhi and Paul George creating for him, especially with the way that they move the basketball. So maybe he'll have a little bit more comfort in shooting the basketball. But yeah, man, no, I'm not doing that deal. I know Bobby Marks is respected, but that was awful, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I give that a 1 as well. Completely one-sided. I think they're undervaluing Fred. Maybe he made that trade offer during Fred's slump, because if it was after these 30-point outbursts, I don't think he's probably sipping on something when he made those offers.
I think there's this, misconception that the Raptors are ready to go full rebuild. I think that's the conversation that's being had right now. Even though, we hear multiple reports that the other teams are waiting for the Raptors to kind of make up their mind. And I think what's, aggravating as a fan is that you're going to be waiting last minute to do what exactly? You're going to scramble, you might make a desperate move or whatever the case might be, right? So, yeah, I don't see a rebuild. And I think Zahar on your pod where you guys discussed the idea of tanking, what's the recourse? What's the backup plan? We're struggling right now developing young players. So if you go full blown rebuild, are the young players going to have an opportunity to develop? Are they going to live up to their expectations? Are you going to get the right player? Because it is a gamble drafting players. And, you know, we've seen lottery picks not pan out. And we've also seen second round picks end up becoming Hall of Famers. You never know what you're going to get. But it's about direction, it's about opportunities, and are you going to hit on the picks? And I think the Raptors have made some questionable picks over the last couple of seasons. I mean, Scotty Barnes is a no-brainer, but beyond that, with the late round picks, it's up for debate, right?
Yeah, and the later the draft goes, the more question marks go with these prospects, or else they wouldn't be available at those points. Like that's why with somebody like Koloko, he's a project. People getting mad at him and saying, "Oh, well, he's garbage. We should have." Listen, he was a 33rd pick for a reason. If he was a finished product, he would have been a top 5 pick. So relax. We need to be patient. But again, like you said, we need a direction. We need role definition, and we just need some type of balance and stability with what our roster and rotation is going to be. I really believe. Well, sorry. Before we move on, did you have any more Twitter trades that you wanted to go over?
Yeah, I saw one just before we got on, and I don't even need to look at refer to my notes for this. Pascal and OG traded to the Nets for Joe Harris and Ben Simmons.
Are you serious? 0 out of 5.
-5 out of 5. How and why? In what world will the Raptors make that deal? It doesn't make sense. I don't know if it was a Raptors fan that made that, or if it was a Nets fan. I'm going to take the latter and say it was a Nets fan that made that deal. But come on, man. Ain't nobody making that deal.
Man, I was considering putting up who put up those trades, but I didn't want to embarrass anyone. I know I'm not like the biggest platform, but you never know. You don't want to put people's name out there and throw them under the bus. But some of these deals, man, there's a reason why there's real GMs and couch GMs,
Right? There was another one I saw, and I'm just trying to see if I can find it right now. It was something really ridiculous. It involved the Phoenix Suns. I'm gonna try and remember the framework as I search it up exactly. But it was Pascal Siakam and I think OG for DeAndre Ayton. Actually, no. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. Sorry, my apologies. So this is a Phoenix Suns fan. Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent Jr., Christian Coloco. For Jay Crowder, Landry Shaman, and DeAndre Ayton, no picks. He said, and I quote, "I would make this trade 100. Obviously, picks would have to be involved, but this would be a win now move for Phoenix." No kidding.
Bro, this guy it's not 2K. Like you can't just turn up, you can't force trade proposal. You know, I don't know. This is weird. Well, we're about to put on our GM hat and figure out what type of offers we can make to fix our beloved Raptors. What's the trade that you think can save us? Maybe not even just save us, but what do you think? What direction do you think we can go in before the deadline?
You know, I really struggled with this, and I tried many scenarios where, you know, it can address certain needs, and you know, we discussed multiple off air, but there's a couple that really stand out, and you know, let me know what your thoughts are. So we are struggling with shot creation. We missed out on Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell. We're missing that guy. And for some reason, I just kept gravitating back to the Portland Trailblazers. And I keep, you know, replaying that, you know, there's a desire that Dame wants OG there. So, given that OG is our best primary wing defender, possible defensive player of the year candidate, so you definitely want to get some sort of return back. So I put down the framework for Thaddeus Young, OG Anunoby, and Malachi Flynn. For Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II, Anthony Simons, a 2024 first round pick and a 2026 first round pick. I only said they wanted multiple picks, but I put 2 picks, and Anthony Simons is pretty much getting like a polished first round pick. If you want our best asset or our most desirable asset, I want your most desirable asset or prospect. And to me, you're able to still get a role player coming off the bench like Gary Payton II, somebody that can be that perimeter, not necessarily lockdown, but that perimeter defender, has the athleticism to finish above the rim. He's not scared to take it into the paint, especially out in transition. Anthony Simons, he's basically CJ McCollum Jr. with bunnies. I think he's a hybrid of Dame and CJ. And I know you've been a big fan of him for a long time, and I tip my hat off to you, sir, because you're the one that put me on. But Thaddeus Young is a forward that I feel that can help the Blazers. They get their guy in OG. They're able to, you know, maybe protect Jeremy Grant a little bit, who's kind of struggled with injuries a little bit, and get him off of some key defensive assignments, and then OG can fill the role. And then, you know, Malachi Flynn, maybe he benefits from a change of scenery, learning from a guard like Dame Lillard. Benefit everybody involved.
He's from that area. Like, he's not from Portland,
right.
but he's from Seattle, right? So
yeah. So I think that's something worth considering. What do you think about that?
You know what? I get the logic behind it. I like the idea of having a backcourt where you have a prolific scorer, like potential to be a prolific scorer in Anthony Simons and Fred VanVleet. I see that deal going through if, let's say, someone like Gary Trent Jr. is out of the picture now, and we got to figure out what our guard situation is going to be going forward. Do we want to go young with a guy who's proven, like you said, a polished first round pick, more or less, and then you can give Scotty that small forward spot. You get Pascal at the four, and then you figure out what the hell you're going to do at the 5 down the road. But I like it. I like the logic. I like the logic behind that trade. Did you have another trade in mind too?
I did a little bit.
Or should I do mine and then we can go to
Yeah, do
yours?
yours. Yeah, do yours. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Okay, so we mentioned this before, but we need to reconfigure our starting lineup, right? The individual talents, like I mentioned, are good. Just as a collective, we don't work. And I believe you can recognize, or you could do that through getting a stretch center or a defensive center. And you mentioned it earlier with Miles Turner, and that's who I'm kind of equating this to. I would give that call. I would give them OG Anunoby for Miles Turner straight up. Now, this deal, it would have to meet some key stipulations. Now, Miles Turner is about to be an unrestricted free agent, but he is eligible for an extension. And I think he has up until March 1st to sign it. So if it's within the guidelines of the CBA, I would work an extension first with his team before pulling the trigger on that deal, and then ultimately sign him to an extension as soon as we acquire him. And the logic behind that is it's pretty simple. So OG goes to the city where he went to college. He solidifies their small forward position. He's on a team that he's surrounded by shooters and a high level playmaker in Halliburton, and it just seems like a perfect fit for his skill set. And he'll just be used more so as a cutter and a spot up shooter, and obviously their best defensive wing. And when we seen OG at his best is when he had a playmaker out of the high post, just the ball movement and spacing around him. He was able to find gaps in the defense and find his scoring points. Now, on the Raptors end, you acquire a starting center, a guy who shoots great from the 3-point line for his position, and he shoots a great percentage at the rim as well. And then you're also getting someone who's in the 90th percentile and up throughout his whole career. He's never been below 90th percentile in block percentage. So you're protecting the rim and you're getting a shooter. Now Miles Turner is also 27 years old. I think at the end of March, he'll be 27 years old. So he's still in that timeline with the rest of your core pieces. And I know injuries have been a concern with Miles Turner, but so has the same could be said with OG. He's had a checkered injury past too. So at the end of the day, your starting lineup will be Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, Siakam, and Turner. And I think that's a clean role. The roles are defined. Everything's clean. I love that look for the Raptors.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I actually didn't know that about Miles Turner being in the 90th percentile for as long as he has been.
He's from rookie season to now. He's been 90th and up. 2 years before this season, he was 100th percentile back-to-back years. So wow. That means you're the top, right? So
that's impressive. Yeah, man. I mean, like I said at the top, I love the idea of getting Miles Turner there. I love the idea of having role definition, and like you said, it's clean, and everybody can do their part. And yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you said in terms of your reasoning. I also did a trade, a little bit more complicated, I guess you could say. But still sending OG to Indiana, getting TJ McConnell, Chris Duarte, Benedict Mathurin, and a first round pick.
Wow.
I don't want to get too greedy, getting multiple. I know the idea of having multiple, but you're getting a first round pick in Benedict Mathurin.
Yeah, he's a fresh first round. Yeah,
he's a fresh first round. So it works. You get a backup guard in TJ. He doesn't have a three, but man, that mid range and his ability to get to the rim, to be a pest coming off the bench.
And defensively, he's a pest. I think he had a 9 steal game last year or something like that.
Yeah, right? He did, which is absolutely insane. Chris Duarte, I mean, we've seen him before the injury. He was kind of looking like OG Kevin Martin, you know what I mean? With his ability to get buckets. And I mean, Benedict Mathurin is self-explanatory. He's a beast, man. And then you still have that youth, and the idea of having a young Benedict Mathurin growing with the Scotty Barnes,
Oh man.
that has to be appealing. And then obviously, on the Pacers side of thing, you get a solidified wing player, to complement Buddy Hield, Tyrese Halliburton, and Miles Turner. So you got defense on the inside, plus you got defense on the perimeter, because Halliburton's not no scrub on the defensive side of the ball. I think it works out for both. What do you think about that one?
I like that deal. I think Indiana would take a long look at that offer and figure out
Yeah.
what they want out of that Mathurin pick, right? Do they think he's gonna be their future all-star? Or do they think, okay, well, OG is young, he's established, he's a defender, and you can't really find many of him. But we could find more wing scorers down the road, but we can't find OG. So let's do this deal and then figure out what we're gonna do in the next draft, right? And like you said, they already have Buddy Hield. I could see that working, and they have Nembhard off the bench. So, man, I think Indiana and Toronto are going to be on the phone a lot before this deadline. They kind of match. They match up pretty well as far as what each team needs. Another quick trade that I wanted to do to kind of address the playmaking and defense at the guard spot for us is a situation where we call up Washington and we move Thad Young and Malachi Flynn for DeLon Wright and a cap filler, maybe let's say Isaiah Todd. And with the logic why Washington would want Thad, I think they have a bunch of we know they have a bunch of inexperienced experienced players, and they're trying to find their way. So that locker room presence could be needed. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, business wise, why are you paying $8 million for a locker room presence? His second year of his deal is partially guaranteed. I think he's only owed $1 million of that $8 million. That's not hard to move down the road if you're trying to make some extra moves around the league, or if you just want to waive him. So I think that's a good way to free up some cap space. And with DeLon on the Raptors, you're getting somebody who he can kind of revitalize our bench mob, maybe make it bench mob 2.0 or 3.0. I don't even know where we left off as far as what bench mob we're at. But yeah, he's not the perfect player as far as like someone who's a 3-point shooter or unconscious scorer, but he's someone who is very serviceable. He's very productive in the type of system that we run right now. I know with KC he was productive, but we need that guy off the bench who can guard the guard spot, defend at the guard spot, and setting teammates up and guarding multiple positions, switching a bit. So I think DeLon would address that. He's familiar with the players already here, and for Malachi, it gives him a new beginning. It gives him a team that needs a young point guard to groom and grow. I know they have Monte Morris and Johnny Davis, who's not really a natural point. He's more of a combo guard. You give them Flynn, see what he can be, see if they can expand what his potential is, and then go from there. I think there's no losing in that deal for both teams.
I agree 100%. I mean, I like DeLon Wright. I think he kind of figured himself out. He bounced around a little bit, but everywhere he went, he was productive. And, we get the familiarity, play a familiar system. I absolutely love that. And, it's just unfortunate. I feel bad trading any Raptor to the Wizards. It seems like the Wizards is like the abyss of the NBA now.
They're the new kings. They're the new kings.
Right, exactly. Like that's where careers go to die, type of thing. Sorry, Wizards fans, but it is what it is. But yeah, no, I absolutely like that deal. Sticking with the Wizards, you want to talk about Gary Trent?
Yeah, I'll talk about whoever.
Yeah, so I was messing around with the deal, and I'm okay with even sending a first round pick or maybe restructuring the deal, but I have the framework and to do a 2-for-1, and I feel like if we're going to trade anybody, a 2-for-1 should be a priority. You'll be able to address a need and get a filler or at least a serviceable player. But but I like the idea of trading Gary Trent Jr. for Kyle Kuzma and DeLon Wright.
Ooh. Kuzma is he's putting in work this year. That'd be a good addition. And
Right,
DeLon, we already talked about DeLon, but yeah, wow.
Yeah, right. And Kuzma's making 13 mil in comparison to Gary making 17.5. So you have a little bit of some cap flexibility. I know Kuzma is expected to command big money, but you might be able to stay under 25 with Kuzma as opposed to Gary Trent that he might, at least what the rumor is that he's commanding between 20 and 25 mil. You might be able to save a couple bucks if you take a look at Kuzma.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with Kuzma's contract. Is he a free agent this offseason?
I believe he has a player option, but the expectation, similar to Gary Trent, is that they're both gonna
just opt out
and then hit free agency. But what do you think?
I mean, I think that's a good look as well. And then we'll do a separate trade, get Pirtle, and you get all those Utah guys. They went to college together. Get them on the Raptors. Wow. Kuzma would be a nice addition. That would shift Scotty to the 2, right? Or no, OG.
OG to the 2. Which I think he might thrive in, to be honest.
Just a spot up 2 guard. Because Lord knows we don't want him dribbling. Sorry, OG. I'm sorry. But like
it is what it is, man. It is what
it is. My passionate self just came out there. I usually try to be professional. I don't want to like.
You're gonna lose one follower on Twitter now.
So I don't know, man. Like this team, it's such. They're full of enigmas. Like it's like we can go after a win. I feel like okay, we're only 2 pieces away, and after a loss, I feel like man, we got to get rid of him. Get rid of him. What is your gut feeling for the trade deadline? What do you think Masai and Bobby are thinking?
I think that this is exactly where they want to be. They have a lot of flexibility. They have a lot of options. And I think that was the approach going in to this past offseason. They went with the route of continuity. They rolled the dice. And unfortunately, it came out snake eyes. Their gamble did not pay off. But they're not completely out of it. So they have manageable contracts. They have desirable players. They are literally in between a retool and a move that could probably send them over the top, or they're just within the range of a lottery pick. And I feel like that was the whole game plan. So depending on where they are come trade deadline, even though I am praying that we do a move before the deadline, but I can see them doing something similar to what they did with Kyle Lowry, saying, plant a lot of seeds and then in the end not really do anything at all. And maybe by then the Raptors have strung some wins together and maybe they look a lot better and they're playing up to their full potential. I totally see that happening, but you can't get a read on these guys. All I know is that they have the ability to go in whatever direction that they want to go. It's just a matter of committing to that direction. But my gut feeling, I think history dominates this one. I don't see a big move. But if there is going to be a big move, it'll be for one of our key guys, and I imagine that Masai is going to do his Jedi mind tricks and maximize that deal. What do you think?
Yeah, I think before anything else, I believe we're going to get a center out of this deadline. I feel like if we're looking towards the draft, like if you want to balance out how you're going to allocate roster spots, if you're looking at this draft outside of Victor Wembanyama, there's not many close to finished products at the center position. There's some guys who have potential. That's what these prospects are. They're full of potential. I wouldn't want to bank on that because you already have Koloko in that position, right? You want to let's develop him as our backup big or whatever we want him to be in the future. Solidify that starting center spot. Um, First and foremost, obviously try and find that scoring punch off the bench. If you're gonna get a wing or a guard, whatever you need to get, just get someone who could give our guys a break so they don't have to play 30 minutes or sorry 40 minutes and a loss. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think my gut feeling is that they're gonna get a center. That's what I think they're gonna do, and then save everything else for the off season.
Yeah, I don't, and I mean, we were team guard for the longest time until, over the last couple of months where we see, the Raptors losing the defensive battle on the boards, and unfortunately, we just don't have those guys that have the nose for the basketball. We have guys that have the ability and the physical talents to be a great rebounder, but we don't have those guys that are great rebounders. You know what I mean? And I also feel that we should also capitalize, to further my thought on what they're going to do on a trade deadline. They need to capitalize on Pascal's great season. While he has slowed down a little bit, and I think the injury has something to do with it, and maybe the frustrations of losing, putting up numbers and still losing, or the team, there's not that level of consistency. It's either Freddie's having a good game and Pascal's having an off game, or the other way around, or something to that effect. And I mean, even OG has slowed down a little bit after his hot start, but I think a lot of that has to do with, the fatigue and the physicality with him guarding star players every single night. But I think the Raptors need to do Pascal a favor, get some pieces. Even if you're not gonna go for a home run, go for a base hit, go for a single, go for a double, get an additional piece. Maybe it's that center. Maybe it's a couple pieces coming off the bench. Whatever it is, I think they owe it to Pascal. Being in the a top 10, top 15 player, looks like he may not be a starter, but it definitely looks like he's going to be all star, at minimum all NBA. I think they need to do him a great service and get him some help, get him some support.
I mean, do themselves a great service because you have accumulated all these nice, like I keep saying, individual pieces that have produced. What are we getting from this right now? Right? It seems like we're wasting our time. Now, obviously, it's not like 2K. You can't just go in and make a trade whenever the hell you want. Teams have to be on the other end accepting these things. So the deadline is coming up. The Raptors will be on the phones active. I like who we are rumored to be getting. I'm just hoping we get a deal done. And then is there anything that you wanted to close with before we end this episode?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on there. It's always a blast talking Raptors with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not GMs. We are literally having fun with this. We are having fun with this, and we are definitely seeing certain directions that the Raptors can go. And this is just conversation. It's not like we're making up things. These are names that are actually linked to possible teams or possible trade targets. You know what I'm saying? So, I know everybody's gonna have an opinion, but let's just have fun with it and let's see. I know it's been frustrating. I know it's been tough as a Raptors fan over the last couple of games, but let's see. Let's see before we commit to any sort of direction.
Nice. And with your podcast, anything you want to plug before we leave as well?
Yeah, I'm now on iHeartRadio. I'm officially on there, so that's another platform that you can find. Thank you very much. You can find the Live by the Three of Raptors podcast on there. The latest episode, I did a reaction pod. I have a new mic. The audio is not 100%, so I do apologize for that. If you are a fan of the podcast, it will be better next time, I assure you. But yeah, check it out. Mac is going to be coming on there real soon. I got a couple episodes where we're actually going to look at, it's been a long time since we take a look at the rest of the NBA. Everything has been Raptors focused right now for obvious reasons, but we're going to do a couple episodes. We're going to talk about the Raptors and focus a little bit more on the NBA in those episodes. But yeah, check me out. I'm on Instagram at live by the period number 3, and I'm on Twitter at live by the 03. So follow, like, and subscribe.
Yes, thank you guys for tuning in. And please remember to like, subscribe, and raise the vibe. Peace.
Peace.